Brought to you by DK Audio.
DK Audio presents Migrations, a history of where we all came from, by DK, read by Emma Hignett. Migrations, a history of where we all come from. Foreword by David Olusoga. Foreword. Migration is one of the biggest stories in all of human history and a phenomenon that is set to shape the world in the 21st century. It began over 100,000 years ago when our human ancestors first emerged in Africa, and it was through migration that humans came to occupy most of the world, with migrant communities making epic journeys across land and dangerous voyages over the great oceans in simple wooden ships and boats. As migration has always been part of the human story, we live in a world that has been shaped by it in multiple ways. Languages, cultures, and religions have been transmitted across the world by migration, brought by both refugees and colonizers who built empires. Many of the foods we now grow and eat became part of our diets after they were introduced by migrants. Across the world, millions of people have ancestors who, at one time or another, were migrants, while millions live in nations, like the United States and Australia, that were founded by migrants who outnumbered the indigenous people and stripped them of their land. Migration is so old and so vast a story that it is a background reality to our world. There are aspects of history that are not always recognized as stories of migration, and yet the resettlement of people was fundamental to them. The Industrial Revolution that began in England in the 18th century marked the beginning of one of the most important forms of migration, the movement of people from the countryside to the cities. By the middle of the 1900s, Britain had become the first country in which more people lived in the cities than the countryside. In recent decades, almost 500 million people in China have made that same journey, from rural villages to urban centres. Today, the majority of the world's population live in cities. As this book reveals, not all global migrations were voluntary. The Atlantic slave trade and the trades in enslaved Africans across the Sahara Desert and the Indian Ocean were among the greatest crimes against humanity ever committed. They can also be seen as part of a wider trend of forced migration. After slavery was brought to an end, the British Empire encouraged thousands of people from India to travel huge distances to do the work once carried out by enslaved Africans, and later to build new railway lines. Chinese people also became migrant workers in the empires built by the European nations. Many migrations have led to the displacement and then involuntary migration of indigenous peoples. For example, the European colonists who created new settlements in North America forced the indigenous peoples to migrate, sometimes to reservations, their original homelands given over to new settlers. Today, many nations rely upon migrants as workers, and without them their economies could not properly operate. Many of those migrants retain strong ties to their communities of origin, and millions of them regularly send money back to members of their family who still live in the countries from which they migrated. These payments are called remittances. For some of the world's poorer countries, remittances represent a large proportion of their national income. In the 21st century, migrants leave their countries of origin for many of the same reasons that people have always left: to find work and build better lives for themselves and their families, or to escape from wars and conflicts. However, a new form of climate migration has started to change migration patterns. As the climate of the world starts to change, with sea levels rising and farmland in parts of the world becoming too dry to support crops and animals, millions of people are at risk of losing their homes and their livelihoods. Migration and climate change are becoming ever more.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?